Hello, this is Mike with Mike's Walleye Rigs. I wanted to do a video today on snap weights. How I make my snap weights and give you some scenarios of how I might use my snap weights on a typical day fishing. This is how I make them. Take a trolling sinker. I typically use 3 ounce and 5 ounce for the application that I use. And take a alligator clip. You can get them at Radio Shack. They're $2.25 for 8 of them, and just a little wire tie. All you do is take the wire tie and stick it through the hole in the back of the alligator clip, thread it on there. String on your weight, cinch it down, like so. Trim off the tag end of it. Now you got a snap weight. Okay, you can't hook these directly onto your line though. You have to use a rubber band to hook them on. Let me show you how I do that. I use number 16 rubber bands from Staples. That's the same rubber bands I use on my planer board clips. So you got your monofilament fishing line. You just half hitch the rubber band onto your monofilament. I guess it could be braid also. I've actually done this on lead core. Then you just put your alligator clip on and there you go. That's how I run them. I fish Lake Erie, Central Basin. Most of our fishing is for suspended walleyes, so I'm not typically dragging these on the bottom like a bottom bouncer. They're typically up off the bottom, but I've been fishing these things for 6-7 years, and I don't believe I've ever lost one. If I have, it's pretty infrequent. So that's how I make them. Yeah, I've had some guys also question these snap weights. It isn't the prettiest looking rig, and that I've had guys who say that thing might scare fish. Well, actually in Lake Erie, out of Erie, they've been doing the same thing for years. But typically, this is what they instead of using the alligator clip on it, they just run a rubber band through the weight like such, half hitch it on there, then they half hitch it around the monofilament just like that, and then when it's coming in, they just snap them off, just bust them off, and there they go. And yeah, that might look a little bit prettier going through the water. Like I said, I run these 50 feet from my line or from my lure. I've had guys say that alligator clip on there might cause turbulence and all kinds of things. It works. The nicest thing about having the alligator clip on though versus just snapping them off is if you're actually doing that all day long, you're snapping those things, you got rubber bands snapping you in the fingers all day long. Maybe you got a little kid on there snap, you ask him to pull it for you, or your wife snap. I've been rubber bands. The alligator clips don't, you're not getting snapped in the fingers. Plus the rubber band's always there too. Once you put it on there, it's good for the day. So that's another reason why I like to use the alligator clips. But I've caught tons of fish using these things. Now, how I might use my snap weights. For one thing I wanted to say is typically when I use them, snap weights, I always run a 50-foot lead out. I put my lure in the water. I run 50 feet, hook my rubber band on, then my weight. Send my weight out, and I go until typically I run 200 feet of line out. Now, And what I do is I vary my lures and my weight. My lead is typically the same on everything. And I run big planer boards, and that cuts down on some of the confusion on the boat. It's just easier that way. I run braid for a backer. Did another video a while ago on running braid for a backer and why, because it's easier to break the rubber bands. There's no stretch in it. So and I was talking about with lead core line, but even with monofilament line, I do the same thing. And I run 200-foot monofilament and then hook it to braid from there into the rod. It makes life a lot simpler when you're running your big planer boards. So here's a typical situation you might run into where the snap weights work really well. They're really fast. That's when you're setting them. Not that much stuff that can go wrong when you're setting them. Line goes out real quick. Maybe in comparison to running like lead core, it might take a while to get the line out. If you're running like 5 ounces of lead with a deep diving crankbait, that line just goes right out really fast. So it's real quick setting, and that's another plus to the system. But here's something that we typically see a lot. Might start out, say it's Friday, you're heading to the lake, you get up to the lake and your buddies are there, and you see them and say, hey, where you been catching your fish all week? And they'll tell you. And it might be a situation with us. We'll see a lot where our perch are maybe in 40, 45 feet of water, or on the bottom, and our walleyes will suspend and out beyond those. And so you get there and they say, yeah, we're catching our walleyes like 45, 50 feet of water, and they're suspended 40 feet deep, 35 feet deep. That's where I've been catching them. Well, typically what they're going to do is they're going to tell you the last thing they caught them on. They're not going to tell you what you caught them on all day, but that was what was working when they finished up the day. So that's what you hear from them. So the next morning you get up bright and early and you get out there and just breaking daylight, and you get to the spot where he told you he saw we was on fish the day before, and you get there and there's no fish. So you can't see any fish. You saw the perch. You drove through the perch and urchin, but there's no arches on the screen. And so I see it a lot. This happens a lot. And what's happened, those fish are still there. They're just up higher in the water column. They're spooking out from under your boat, and you can't see them. So it's probably not a dead hole. What I would do, I would set up in that same place. I trust my buddy didn't send me to a bad place. They just go ahead and set up, but go much higher in the water column instead of maybe running the reef runner on 5-color that he ended the day with. Maybe start out and maybe like say run a husky jerk, or put it out on 200 feet of line, just straight back. You're going to be in that maybe 20 feet of water. There, put that out on one side, and then the other side, maybe run something a little deep, that dives a little deeper, like say your reef runner. Or maybe I'd run that on 3-color lead core. It's going to be right around 30 feet deep. So now you got the water column. You're covering 20 to 30 feet deep. You got 2 lures in there. That's a pretty good place to start. So you're up high. You know, probably those fish, you're not going to see them. They're going to spook out from under you, but they're there. So get them out on the planer boards, truss it, go for a while, see what happens. Say you started out, made a good decision. Maybe the husky jerk's doing good. 20 feet of water, you're catching some fish on that side. You go a ways, you find out, hey, maybe the clown color is working good. Maybe put a couple of these on. I always start out with, if I'm running 4 rods on my planer boards, I run 4 different colors, see what's working. And maybe you found, okay, that's working, so maybe you're putting some reef runners on, some yellowish colored reef runners to try to get you to match the other side. So you run for an hour, and everything's working good. You're catching lots of fish. Maybe you're starting to hone in on them, and all of a sudden your husky jerk stops working. Your reef runners are starting to catch. It tells me maybe now you're even starting to see fish on the screen. And maybe now those fish have actually, sun's getting higher in the day and the fish are going down. So the husky jerk's working. So this is where the snap weights come in. Instead of taking all these off and putting reef runners on, just put 3 ounces of weight on them. Send them right back out. It was working. The fish are still going to bite it. They didn't. Their diet didn't change. They just went deeper. So put 3 ounces of weight on. Drop them down. Go a little deeper with them and keep moving. One of the things with fishing, and I think in general, but I think it's probably more important with big water trolling, and planer boards and just lots of gear, downriggers, and there's dipsy divers, that kind of stuff. You got to be able to get those rods in and out of the water. Every time you catch a fish, you need to get it right back out. If you want to catch a lot of fish, you got to have a lot of lines in the water. So the quicker you can process your gear, the better off you'll be. And that's just not switching out lures on a whole side, running 4 rods in and out to change lures. That'll save you a lot of time. Another tip, you can always take a lure and make your inside lures a little bit deeper than your outside lures on your boards, but you don't want to go the opposite direction. If you can always add weight to your lure and make it go deeper there, and if you catch a fish on your outside rod, and when you pull it and it's going to come out over top of your inside rod. But if you have it the other way around, you'll snag up your lines. Also, when you're doing that, I typically don't. I always run the same lures on one side of the boat. But if you do, say you got something you want to try something, maybe it's running 3 or 4 feet different from the other lure, just always make sure that line, when you catch a fish or you trip that release on that planer board, that you give it plenty of time to go back behind the boat and get straight behind, and it'll clear the other lines. You start reeling right away, it'll come right into your other line. Another thing I do once in a while, it might not be real conventional, but say I'm out there and I only have 4 or 5 fish to go, and I'm just trying to clean up and get done for the day, and say I was running 3 colors, a lead core, or 5 colors, and I know those fish have just got a little bit deeper than me. I am not afraid to go ahead and on my lead core, go ahead and put 3 or 5 ounces of lead on just to get them a little bit deeper. I might change the action some, but it doesn't really seem to affect the action. I always run a 50-foot mono leader on my lead core, so that's right where I hook onto with my snap weights if I do that. And people might ask why I always run a 50-foot leader too. There is some science behind that. Typically, when you're bringing a fish up, walleye up, and everybody's seen them come in behind the boat, come in with their mouths open, and you're dragging, coming across the top a lot of times. They'll usually do that until they're right about 50 feet, between the 50 and 30 foot mark, somewhere in there. Once you get inside of that, that's where the fish tend to want to dive and do crazy things, and everybody's had that at the back of the boat with the net. The things they come right in smooth until they get close, and then they go crazy. So when you're going to take those weights off, that's when I want to do it. When they're still out there, everything's running smooth. I don't want to get them right in close to the boat and then pop that weight off. And when they're going nuts, it helps with their back there a ways. So that's why I actually run the 50-foot lead. I'm not actually so concerned about the weight itself scaring the fish or spooking them. It actually has more to do with just kind of keeping things under control. Plus, that's at 50 foot. If they do spit the lure, that's quite a ways for a lure to fly, and just a safety factor of it too. Hooks flying, you're less likely to get a hook in you that way too. So that's how I use my snap weights, and I hope that helps. This is Mike with Mike's Walleye Rigs. If you'd like to see more of my videos or any of my products, you can find them at mikeswalleyerigs.com. Thank you.